But let's talk WrestleMania 32.
More like you're going to talk WrestleMania 32 because it's funny. Here we're kind of flip-flopping here. We're like, for a while you wouldn't tune in for anything, and I was like, I'm following it just to follow it, even if I'm not watching it. Whereas this year, I had people over, and when it came time to watch WrestleMania, we all kind of looked around and went, nah, Street Fighter V's cool, and didn't even bother to turn it on.
Which is funny because 2 years ago, WrestleMania 30, we had a great time.
Yeah.
That was a great WrestleMania. We said it.
It was pretty good.
When you had the surprising Hogan and The Rock and Stone Cold in the same ring, Daniel Bryan winning 2 great matches, and finally, like the fans get behind. God, it was so fantastic. God, I'm depressed that Daniel Bryan's retired too. God, is my love of wrestling going away very, very quickly again. So this was not a good WrestleMania. I'm gonna come out and say that. And I haven't seen the entire thing because you know what? I didn't want to spend the fucking 5 hours. It was almost like 5 hours the event.
Really?
It was well over 4 hours.
Oh Jesus!
Well over
Christ.
4 hours. You had a fucking half-hour Rock come down in the ring that went absolutely nowhere, and the fans didn't give a shit. This is how you know it's bad. When The Rock comes out, you don't care because we've seen it before.
Right.
We've seen the past 5 WrestleManias he's been there. It's not a surprise anymore. It's not cute anymore. His shtick is old. All he does is sex and inbred jokes. That's all he got. That's all he got. Just real quick. There was maybe 2 or 3 good matches. You have maybe the Jericho Styles match, but Jericho's not what he was. He just isn't. Sorry. I love Jericho. He's not what he was.
Well, it's absolutely insane that he went over.
Yes. Well, we'll get to that. The women's match with a brand new belt, which is fantastic. No more Diva Butterfly bullshit belt. It's a women's wrestling belt again. That's good. That's actually good. And then you had the ladder match. Which I didn't see that one actually. I watched partial ones. The ladder match was supposedly pretty good. Well, again, really weird ending. Let's go through the endings real quick because yes, the product matters, but WrestleMania is supposed to end the storylines and then also start a new year. It's like the end of the season, so to speak, and started the new one. It's supposed to be big. And makes sense. So Ambrose got fucking buried in a Lesnar match. It was like a 12, 13-minute match. He took less punishment than guys like or just as much like guys like Cena did or Roman Reigns did last year at WrestleMania for the title. So this is why that fucking is awful. Because Ambrose is the most popular face in the company.
Yep. And Lesnar is basically, well, they're not doing anything with Lesnar right now.
Lesnar's a guy you use to get people to watch your pay-per-view or to put someone over. Yeah. That's what he is at this point, which is fine because there's no one else on the card like that can do both or be a believable champion if you needed to carry the title. He's a fail-safe Lesnar at this point.
Jack of all trades.
Yes. And Ambrose was getting big face pops. I'm thinking of Roadblock. Was it Roadblock where he faced Triple H and people wanted him to beat Triple H for the title? Like, they were like, they could taste like they
seething. Like,
yes, they want it to happen because he's the guy that they want to get behind. They don't want to get behind Roman Reigns. No. They haven't gotten behind Roman Reigns the past year and a half that they've wanted to.
My understanding was that he was basically booed as he came out and he was booed as he left.
This is allegedly 100,000 people inside the huge Dallas fucking Cowboy Stadium that they're putting this on. When he won the title, and that was not a good match. It was like the Triple H, let's make it an epic match without there actually being an epic feeling and without having a guy in the ring that it could be epic with, Roman Reigns. I was like over 25 minutes, I think. It should have been half that length. And when he won, there was some cheering, but mostly silence and some boos. I think people are already leaving the fucking building.
Oh, God.
Like, they were not showing, like, a lot. There was not a lot of big crowd shots. Like, when Daniel Bryan won, you pull back.
Yeah.
You see the streamers coming down, the confetti, and the whole crowd is fucking overjoyed.
Right.
Not so much those big wide crowd shots when he won. No. Because you know why? It would be apathy. It would be people like this, or people giving thumbs down probably, or just we don't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no more you can say. It's just not good. It's just not good. Now, but here's the thing, though. Obviously, it won't change, though, unless people unsubscribe from the network, and they are down 1%. Supposedly, they have about 1 million paying, 1.7 or 1.8 million or 1.6 million watched the event, but those were freebies. They have 1 million paying. So this is going to hurt them unless that revenue stream changes. If they go down like 20%, 30%, and people drop off, then you might see a change and be like, okay. Because remember, this isn't a wrestling company. It's an entertainment company at this point. They do their shitty movies on the side. One with Dolph Ziggler's coming out. Okay. And that's how he's named Dolph Ziggler, which is not his real name, which is weird. Because it's supposed to be a playoff of Dirt Diggler, right? So they do that stuff. They have their Total Divas E show. They get their money from different avenues. Wrestling and the network being one of them. But even if their current product sucks, that might not affect the network because Raw, they get their money from Raw advertising on cable and USA. That has nothing to do with the revenue on the network. So that doesn't even carry over. It's really do people want to watch the big pay-per-views and pay for that? Because that's probably what most people want to pay for. Besides the back catalog, which is where it does make sense.
Yeah, and the back, as great as the back catalog is, at some point you're going to see everything that you want to see. So So then that leaves.
I didn't even talk about the other bad booking. AJ Styles losing fairly cleanly to Jericho makes no sense at all. I don't give a shit if AJ Styles is the number one contender right now. They're not going to put the belt on him. Even if they do, you can't have guys lose to older part-timers like that. Jericho's become, at least, I don't know if he knows or not, became the guy that he left WCW because of.
Yes.
The old guy that doesn't deserve to be in the spotlight anymore and is going over for no reason.
You and I are both huge Jericho fans. If we're both saying Jericho should not be going over anymore, I mean...
Not cleanly and not winning 2 out of 3 of that feud. No. Absolutely not. Ambrose should not be getting buried. The Wyatt should not be getting buried in a non-match with The Rock running him down and then beating Eric Rowan in a 6-second match.
And then I imagine, I imagine Vince in the back going, well, see, they
like The Rock.
They're not popular, so we can't let them win. No, people tire of wrestlers that you bury over and over again, even if they like them. Why? Because they don't believe you're ever going to do anything with them.
The League of Nations got buried by, in costume, in regalia, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, and Mankind, or Mick Foley come down and then beat them up. These are guys that, used to be your world champion, 2 of them. Used to be King of the Ring, your IC champions, Del Rio, who's in the best shape of his life, and we'll just toss him out to the comedy, sideshow. Yes, they are old timers. Yes, we love these guys back then. They should not be defeating your current guys that are around 52 weeks of the year.
Yeah,
it's awful, short-sighted, terrible booking that only makes a WrestleMania moment in lieu of actually pushing the wrestlers and making interesting, believable threats.
Well, and it's not even creative because it's essentially the same thing as last year where NWO and DX,
Same shit. And then, we'll just also then, even though it was only one of them, I think Xavier Woods got a Stone Cold Stunner from New Day. And it's just like, fuck off. Just fuck off.
So...
It just doesn't make any sense. So it makes no sense.
In stark contrast, you have the NXT TakeOver that happened the night before, 2 nights before. And what a fucking pay-per-view that was. Or big show, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
Pat didn't see, but I didn't watch Mania, so I can't give him shit. Whereas, in contrast, every fucking match on that was good to fantastic. You have what people are easily calling match of the year, if not match of the past 5 years contender, in Nakamura and Zayn. That went for half an hour, and the chant that kept going was fight forever because no one wanted that match to end. You look at that in contrast to something like Reigns and Triple H.
You want it to end.
They're looking at their watches okay, it's been 20 minutes. It's got to be wrapping up any time now.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up the disaster that was the Shane Undertaker match, but go on.
You've got the women's match, Bayley and Asuka, which is, which is one, probably the second best match on the show. You've got Samoa Joe and it was an amazing pay-per-view. It was 2 hours. There was no filler. Every match got its proper due, but nothing was drug out. The guys that could go 35 minutes went 35 minutes. The really the Austin Aries Baron Corbin match, Corbin's getting better, but you know what? That only needed about 10-15 minutes. It got 10-15 minutes. There was no, everything was just as it should have been. And this is we say it all the time. This is why Vince needs to go. WWE has the ability to put on a good product again. They just aren't, at least not in the spotlight. And at some point, you've got to move this NXT style of wrestling that everyone's murmuring about or everyone loves. You got to move that into the limelight.
The problem is some of the NXT guys are coming up. Like they had Enzo and Cass come up a tag team on Raw. You had Apollo Crews, looked very impressive. Like very impressive.
Apollo Crews is great.
So they're trying to do that, but then are they going to use the guys right? That's the problem. AJ Styles, he's number one contender now. That's fine. But if he's just going to be used as a guy to put over Reigns, that's going to bury AJ Styles, and why the fuck did you sign him? Besides giving him a good payday.
At 38 years old, you cannot...
Now or never.
You can't... Right, he's much younger, but it's kind of the Sting situation. You got to do it, and you've got to do it right now. This guy doesn't have his entire career ahead of him.
He's still probably the best wrestler on the roster, at least on the male side. So if you do that, though, then you can build around that, though. Bullet Club, and then you start something new. But there was no evidence they were going that direction on Raw. That could have been shocking. Real quick, going back to the Shane Undertaker match. Holy shit, what a disaster.
I watched Shane's dive off the top.
Fuck you out there if you think that's what makes a good wrestling match, because it doesn't. It's a stunt. It's a stunt that can get someone killed. And honestly, I don't want to see a guy in his mid-40s with his family out there and his kids, even though there's padding on it. I don't want to see him have to do that to make the match memorable, because otherwise it's a shit match. Then don't have the fucking match. And don't have it then.
It already happened in the late 90s a couple of times. We don't need to keep seeing the same fucking spot over and over again.
He did the coast to coast a couple of times. He did it here too. He fell off stuff. That's not a good wrestling match. I'm sorry. It's not. I don't want to watch it.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard he pulled off the Van Terminator.
Yeah, because he did that. So I don't want to see it. Taker didn't look good. He said beforehand on Raw this wasn't gonna be his last match. Then he tells people it is backstage. I don't know. Do the fucking Sting match. Have them do Hadoukens with each other with Magic. Not a good match. And plus, it doesn't make any sense for the storyline.
Hulk Hogan flash paper.
After the big sort of, you have this documents on me, Shane. You're never going to control me. I'm going to disown you. Then on Raw, it's like it didn't fucking count, because then they kind of make up, and he lets Shane run Raw anyway. So then you have the storylines not even mattering after WrestleMania.
Wait, they had Shane run Raw anyways?
On Raw. Yeah, after WrestleMania. Just the 1 week, but So there's no consequence to the storylines. Ambrose wasn't even on Raw. Triple H wasn't there to say, you got me, Roman, or whatever. It was like a fucking vacuum on Raw. A freaking vacuum. So, the biggest thing then Zack Ryder winning the IC belt out of nowhere.
Why?
I don't know, because they've been burying him the past 4 years.
Yeah.
So, him doing that, he loses to The Miz with Maurice coming back on Raw as the big shock moment. It's just like, done. Okay. I'm done talking about this.
We're done.
I'm done.